ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಲ್ಲ. ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೆಂಟ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಆಯಿತಾ. ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಶೇರಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು.
ಬರ್ತೀನಿ. ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. Okay, so good afternoon to one and all present. Are you able to hear me? Can we start the session?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so all of you are able to hear me. So good afternoon to one and all. We come to the third day of this workshop session on research methodology. Now, today I will be kind of 10 minutes. We will just recap what we have done in the previous two sessions, and then we will move on to the current topic for this session. Now, in the first session, we started off with the entire idea of what is philosophy, what is the approach, what is the types of research, the qualitative and the quantitative types of research. Now, in that, what was the learning outcome? What you needed to know was the first one, what is conceptualization? That is how you take an abstract idea and try and label that particular idea. That is the first thing that you need to know. The second thing that you need to know is what is a construct or a concept, and how is that you use the concept or the construct while you are framing your title. And from the concept or the construct, how you are able to have your dimensions or aspects for the research, and what are the variables for that particular construct. Now, this was what we learned in the first session. Now, in yesterday's session, what is the learning outcome that you had to know is how to frame your title. Based on the framing of your title, what are the research questions that you need to know? The second thing is, how do you frame objectives on the basis of that? So what are objectives? Objectives are something that are measurable based on the abstract concept that you have. Then the third important thing what you need to know is building up a conceptual model for your research and framing a working hypothesis for that particular research. Okay, so the statement on the basis of which your entire research lies. So this is what you need to know when it comes to planning of your research. And I told you that planning of research is probably the most important thing. Planning of research is the most important thing. So if we are taking 100% as our research, your planning should constitute at least 40%. So, once you get that clarity of research, all other things will follow easily and automatically. So, the only hurdle that you will face is data collection and data analysis when it comes to the actual execution. So that was under planning of research. Then we also studied what are the various sampling techniques that we need to know, and also what is the research plan that we need to prepare. So once you have prepared this research plan, now the next most important thing, today what we will be covering is, in my mind, I have two things. One is review of literature, and the other one is measurement scales, along with a bit of introduction to your methods of data collection. So we will start off with review of literature. Any research, as far as a research is concerned, whether it is a research article or whether it is a research thesis, please remember at least 1/5 of your research must be review of literature. So 1/5 of your research must consist of the content of review of literature. However, whatever review of literature that you are writing, that review of literature can be included in the introduction, can also be included in the review chapter or the review topic. Now, please note what I'm talking is relating both to a thesis as well as a publication. There's no much difference between the two. And also, in recent papers now, you will find that a lot of, once the analysis has been done by the researcher, a lot of proof is given in the form of review of literature when it comes to data analysis also. So you can show review of literature in all these three areas, that is the introduction, also the review of literature, and also in your data analysis and interpretation. Currently in papers, we don't call it as data analysis and interpretation. The word results and discussions are used. So as far as possible, when you're writing papers, please make sure that you use the word results and discussion. Now we will come to how we are going to write a literature survey. What is a literature survey? Now ultimately, when you want a background for your research work, okay, so you need to take in sources of information. Okay, so you need evidences, you need information, whether it can be on key issues that you want to identify and you want to do research, or you have already taken the topic or the concept and still you want to get evidences regarding that. So it is something where your research gets evidence, or what you are doing, it is a kind of an evidence for your research. Now review of literature is something that is very, very important for a researcher. That's why I told you, starting from identifying concepts till the date of submitting your thesis, it's an ongoing process. So try and concentrate more about what is that I need to take from papers, what is that I need to take from journals, what is that I need to take from articles. This is something that is very, very important, because what contributions have been done earlier, that will determine the gap of knowledge. So with that gap of knowledge, you can always identify your title, and that will set the basis for you doing the research. So in each area, please remember, other than exploratory studies, there are plenty of research that is already being conducted. Now what is that you need to do in research? I will just give you the guidelines first. First of all, you need to know the databases. Okay, if you see here on this board, if you're able to see this, I've just put a list of databases. Please note, these are the list of databases. Okay, maybe while I'm sending my PPT, I will also give you this list. Emerald is a very good publication database. You have Wiley, then you have Springer, JGate, JSTOR, Academy of Management, Sage, Elsevier, and Scopus. So please note that familiarize yourself with these databases. Okay, so make sure that you're familiar with that. You take articles from that. The second important thing, as I said in the previous session, was your review of literature must be based on your constructs, dimensions, and variables. So your entire review of literature must be based only on these. So while you are having a study of the review of literature, please do note taking. Please do note taking. This is something that is very, very important for a researcher. As and when you read a paper relating to your concept, please remember, again, I told you, if you are doing, let us say, a topic like, HR practices on organizational performance, don't restrict yourself to only HR practices on organizational performance. Let us say, for example, you can also take the marketing strategies on organizational performance. That also can be a paper which you can look into, because under marketing strategies, the dimensions for organizational performance will be given. So you can take the same dimensions of marketing and use them for HR. It's not that you should not take it or something like that. Now, let us say somebody is doing on organizational efficiency. You can, and your area is marketing. You can also take up papers where organizational efficiency has been done in HR, where organizational efficiency has been done in finance. So please note that it's very important for you to take a broader perspective when it comes to review of literature and start reading a paper. I do understand that many of you, it might be quite difficult. It is a kind of a penance, if I would say. Okay, in Sanskrit, if I would say, it is a sadhana. Okay, research is a sadhana. Until and unless you don't feel that that you are doing a sadhana, you're just doing it for the purpose of a doctorate. Believe me, the purpose is never served. The broader purpose is never served. So every day, when I used to come and sit down, it was like a sadhana. It was like a meditation. It was like worship. It was like prayer. So that is how you have to, as a researcher, that is how you have to imbibe in yourself. This is one very important thing. Make a practice of reading at least 3 research papers in a day. This is one thing which you will have to imbibe as a habit. And please keep a notebook where I usually tell researchers, make a table. In fact, the table, either you can do it on an Excel sheet, or if you're comfortable writing, like my Jen will be more comfortable writing it. I used to write the whole thing and then put it onto the system. Make sure that in every paper you're able to write what is the aim of that, what are the 2 constructs or dimensions of variables that research has used. Again, the next important thing is, what is the objective of that particular research? That is the aim of that particular research. What is the methodology that they have used? That is something that is important. Okay, the research methodology, whether they've collected primary data or they've done the research to secondary data. Is it a qualitative research or a quantitative research? What type of ROL is it? I'll be dealing with that next. What type of ROL is it? So when you're looking into that, you need to look into what kind of review that they have done. So that is very important for you. Then the next important thing is your techniques, or the techniques for data analysis, and what are the findings. So in every paper, as soon as you read it, please make sure that you are keeping this summary always, because based on this summary only you are going to prepare the rough of your review of literature. So every paper that you take, again, I mentioned all the databases. Now again, speaking of software, you must use the Mendeley software. I think that's written by Elsewhere. You just have to have your email. It's just like your email account. So if you go to your email account, how you have all your mails in your inbox, like that you can keep all your Now, your papers in your inbox. So you can keep all your papers in your inbox. Make sure that you again classify the papers based on different folders. Give each of your construct as a separate folder. This is how you maintain it in Mendeley also. It's very simple to download it. It's a free software, so you just have to go to your desktop, download Mendeley, and you have to have it as a researcher. There's no second thought about it. You have to keep that, and then you will automatically get, you will just have to download that paper. And I think directly when you're seeing the paper also, if you have Mendeley software in your desktop, if you click on the right, but I think on the right side, you will automatically, that paper automatically goes to your account, Mendeley account. That option also is available. So you can explore. You please check out that. I think you just need to attach your Mendeley with Web Chrome. So if you attach that, automatically your paper goes there. Now, keeping that, you have to classify your papers based on your constructs, because that is how you will be writing your review of literature. So just as how you write your introduction, the same way you will be writing your review of literature also. So make sure that in your review of literature, you classify it based on your constructs. So this is something that is very, very important for a researcher. So once you get an idea of that, start writing it down. Start writing down in paragraphs. Now, when you're writing it down in paragraphs, of course, everything I will not be able to put it into my research. So there are three important things that you must write when it comes to or research paper. The first important thing is what is the aim. Second important thing is what is the method, and the third important thing is what is the outcome. That is where they able to find a relationship. Was there a significant difference? Was the null hypothesis accepted? Ultimately, what was the conclusion of that research? Now that should relate to your concept of what you are dealing with. Now, one more thing, all research must go chronologically. So, when you are starting, you have to start with the, whichever has been first. So let us say take a paper sometime in 1996, or, when initially that concept started, who started with that concept. So it should start with that. And then whatever researches have been conducted, please note, for a thesis, it must go like a story. There must be a systematic review. So when you are summarizing it, make sure that you are putting it in paragraphs just like a story. There must be a flow. So if there is a concept, who wrote that? What was the development? Again, next, who developed that? And then what was the research conducted? Which were the variables taken? Was there any relationship with that construct? So each research ultimately studies the variables. So make sure that you are able to connect it to your research. That is something that is very important. It must relate to your research. According to me, for every construct, at least you should take around 100 to 200 papers. So it depends on the size of your construct. So try as far as possible, but ultimately you will not be able to put all the articles or all the papers. Then start classifying it whether it actually relates to your research or not. Now that step, don't do it initially. This step you have to do it at the end. That is after finishing your data analysis. At the time of report writing, only then you can, that by that time you would have got a clarity. By that time you would have got a clarity as to what actually relates to my research and what does not. But what I am trying to tell is, initially when you're doing review of literature, and always keep doing review of literature, whatever other work you're doing, whether you're doing data analysis, whether you're writing introduction, whether you're doing the findings at any stage, this should be ongoing. So every day, three papers on an ongoing basis, you should keep writing the summary. Okay, and only then come at the end to the review of literature chapter, and then you can summarize the whole thing. Now, the entire review of literature must be submitted as per the APA 6th edition guidelines. My request to you is please download APA 6th edition guidelines for your citation. That means to say the name of the author, then you have the year, then you have the title of the paper, the name of the publication, then your volume, then you will also have the page number. So all this, please note that you must be able to write it. So according to APA 6th edition guidelines, please note, if you have Mendeley, it is something very, very easy. Mendeley is something that is very easy. Once you have that, you actually need not do that particular job. That will be done by Mendeley. So you need not break your head over how it has to be presented. Okay. Okay, so is this clear? Now, this is something that is most important for a researcher. Now, again, what should the review of literature contain? Now, please remember, don't directly start off with the review of literature, the body. It must have an introduction and a conclusion. In the introduction, please remember, you must state what is the importance or the significance of your topic, you should take it from your topic, from your research question to what is being reviewed. That should come in the introduction. Now, conclusion again is a summary of your findings. Please don't write in the conclusion summary of the findings of the review of literature that is given. Never do that. Now, your review of literature should always include your summary. That is what ultimately from this review of literature, what have you summarized? That must come in the end. So as far as possible in your thesis also, again I told you, say for example, it's a 200-page thesis. 40 pages should be review of literature. 1/5 should be review of literature. So you try and divide how you are going to go about in your study. This is something that is very, very important for you. Now, the next important thing, we will come to what are all the types of review of literature. If you remember, yesterday I sent you 5 papers. Most of you would have gone through it. If not gone through it, no issues. You can go through it today. In fact, you'll be able to classify them better. Now, what is that you need to know when it comes to this kind of review literature? Every paper, please remember, exclusively you can do. Kindly give me a minute. I just want to mute. There are some participants who have unmuted. Okay, so one sincere request to you. I think most of you asked me about publications. I'll try to also cover that when I'm doing this. exclusively you have papers on review of literature. Exclusively you can do papers on review of literature, especially critical review papers and meta-analysis papers. These are papers as of today which have got very good scope. You can try out initially trying to do these kind of papers. Now, when we look into research papers, there are some papers which are exclusively conceptual in nature. What do I mean by conceptual in nature? Let us say, for example, you want to have propositions in your research. So if you want to have propositions in your research, if you are taking up and building on a new concept which is on a theory development, yours will be a conceptual paper. And for that conceptual paper, you will have a conceptual review. So ultimately, why we have conceptual review papers is basically to develop a theory. So if you are developing a theory, you usually have propositions in that paper, and the review will be conceptual. This is called as a conceptual review paper. This is one type of review of literature. So if you look into the review of literature, please note conceptual review means it gives you the conceptual view of how a researcher explains a phenomena, how he gives a label to that idea, and how he develops a proposition based on the relationship of the concepts. So this is called as a conceptual review paper. The second type of paper is called as a critical review paper. Ultimately, what is a critical review? It kind of gives an evaluation of the thought of each researcher or the research paper. So they kind of consider both the positive aspects as well as the negative aspects of the paper, and a review is given. That is called as a critical review paper. Okay, if I have to tell you a critical review paper, in the 5 papers what I have given, the psychology of talent management, if you can read that paper, it's a very nice paper. Entirely it gives a review of all the papers that have been taken under talent management, and they've classified it, and they have given the advantages and disadvantages of the entire concept. So if you go through that paper, the psychology of talent management, that is a critical review paper. Conceptual paper, if you've read or if you've not read also, there is a paper called as Acceptance of Sports Website. That was a paper that was sent. That is a conceptual paper. In fact, if you see the paper, the title itself gives a conceptual model. So if it's a conceptual paper, what people try and do is, they mention what is the type of review that is being done, or what is the type of, the research that is being done. Next. Okay, the next type of paper is a meta-analysis paper. This is something that is an extension of your systematic review paper. Now, a systematic review paper is kind of, summarizing the entire thing. So what we actually do in theses is a systematic review. So entirely we take in, a research problem, and then we try to identify what are the research papers under that. Chronologically, we give, this is what the researchers have stated. So that is a kind of what is called as a systematic review. An extension of the systematic review is called as a meta-analysis. Now, what we do along with the systematic review is we collect the entire statistical data about it. and summarize the statistical data. That is called as a meta-analysis. If you are able to get even 2 meta-analysis paper in your concept, in your title of research, I think, most of your review of literature is done. So if you are looking for papers in your particular area, please make sure that you concentrate on meta-analysis paper. Lot of review of literature will be given in that because they also do statistical analysis of the research work. The last type is called as empirical review. Now again, the same types of review, but in a much more presentable form. That is usually a table is presented relating to the statistical analysis. So whatever the author has given, it is summarized in the form of a table. So empirical reviews usually give you statistical data and statistical analysis. So this is one kind of review what you can give when it comes to a review of literature. You can give empirical review. That means to say with the statistics you are trying to present that in the form of a table. Now, what is the difference between meta-analysis and empirical review? Empirical review, review of few articles, whereas meta-analysis population, and also you are going to do a statistical significance. That means to say, if you look into meta-analysis paper, it is it carries more value. This is one thing what you need to know. Try as far as possible in giving an empirical review or a systematic review. You have to discuss it with your research supervisor or your research guide and make sure that you're giving a good kind of a review, whichever type that you are using. Any type of review can be used, but usually for a conceptual research, conceptual review is used. As far as possible for an empirical study, that is, most of you are doing quantitative research, so either you can use an empirical review or you can use a systematic review. Again, critical review is usually used in qualitative studies. So as far as possible, when a thesis is concerned, make yourself sure that you're doing a systematic review. I don't advise much of a meta-analysis when it comes to a thesis, but yes, if you are doing a publication of your research, and please note, if you are publishing a paper, start off with critical review research papers or systematic reviews. This is where you can really start off with good publications. This is one thing I would like to tell you. Now, regarding publication, because yesterday there were many people who were asking me about publication. Please note, you have these databases. And also one thing, I'll just take out this. Don't worry, I'm going to type this and put it to the PPT, and I will be sending this to you. What is the most important thing in publication? Now, most of you are doing research, and it is mandatory as per your university that you have to have at least 2 publications, quality publications, or you've already completed your doctorates, and you are in the process of doing, you want to do good publications. Please remember that, again, I don't know if I'm wrong, it originally starts again with the review of literature. So how good you are in reading. I told you on day 1 again, reading is the key for a researcher. So I don't know, because 5 years I was not there on WhatsApp, I was not there on Facebook. Again, I told you it's a kind of a penance for each one of you. So it's very important for you. It's not that you are doing review of literature and you're taking your WhatsApp and checking messages. No, that I don't consider that as a penance. So one thing that is most important for you is understanding in your review of literature, reading it a lot. The second important thing is getting clear guidance from what actually you have to do. I will just give you, you can Google this. Just you have to go to Skimago rankings. I hope all of you are able to see this. SCIMAGO. You just have to go to Skimago rankings. You will find the website. As soon as you go to that particular website, I'm also opening that. Skimago, if you go to that website, you will find what is called as journal rankings there. If you just go to the website, you will have home, journal rankings, country rankings, and all the remaining ones. You just have to go to country rankings. And when you go to country rankings, there below that you will get what is called as all subject areas. The first itself. On the left hand side, the first you get all subject areas. Now in that, if you just go and click, it will give you the list of all subject areas. Now all that you need to do is go and click business management and accounting. Again, if you are commerce related, or if you are anything relating to finance, marketing, human resource, accounting, all that, you just have to go and click business management and accounting. You will get a list of journals. Now, journals are classified into Q1, Q2, and Q3. Q1 being the best. So my suggestion to you would be initially don't start off with Q1 publications. You can start off with Q3 publications. Now, one more thing is many of them you want to publish in a journal, but you're not very specific about which journal. Some journal you want to publish. Please don't have such kind of ideas. You must be very particular about which journal you are publishing. Please be very particular. That's why I told you initially, please take a look at all the journals, Q1, Q2, and Q3. Citations are very good when it comes to, so your H index is, it's based on your H index. So all your Q1 papers will have a very good H index. Now, one important thing is you just have to go and click on that particular journal. You will get the details of that particular journal. Now, let us say, for example, I click on Journal of Marketing Research. Now, please note, they will give you a list of what are the types of research that that journal accepts. Now, all journals don't accept all types of research papers. Now, let us say, for example, there are some which are exclusively conceptual researches they accept. They accept only qualitative research. So let us say they accept only critical review papers, they accept conceptual papers, they accept ethnography studies, they accept grounded theory. So exclusively these kind of papers. Now again, there are some which accept only quantitative papers. That is, you should have an empirical paper. Now, apart from all this, there is one very important thing which I would like to tell you. That is called as scale development and validation. I don't know, we have been very weak in that. In fact, I also sent you 2 papers. One of my colleague, Harpreet Kaur from Manipal University, has got 2 publications in Q1. I've also sent her papers. You can take a look at those 2 papers. It's on scale development and validation. Please do remember, I know there are some universities, which just say prepare a questionnaire. I don't know for what purpose, because please remember, once you're preparing a research instrument, it must be developed and validated. There is something called as face validity. Ultimately, that is what everybody does. But please note, it must be published, it must be validated. This is something that is very, very important, and you can exclusively do a research on validation. So suppose you're a person who's doing a research and you want to publish, the best thing what you can do is take your scale, if you have developed a scale. And one more thing is, please remember, as a researcher, you can never be an expert in statistics. So learn basic statistics. Don't try to break your head on advanced statistics. I'm not telling that, some of them say you're getting done from a statistician. Please remember, that's not our area. So there's nothing wrong in taking the help of a statistician. And please remember, statistician only gives you the results. Your work is to analyze and interpret the results. So if you are doing a good research, if you are doing it for a publication purpose, there's nothing wrong in you taking the help of a statistician. Because let us say, for example, you're validating and developing a scale. Okay, you need to do what is called as exploratory factor analysis and confirmatory factor analysis. You may have to use AMOS. You may not know how to use, and you cannot sit and learn AMOS rather than going and learning the subject. I'm not telling, if you are capable enough, please do so. It's something that is wonderful, but you don't take learning of AMOS itself to be, a task that you have to accomplish. Not necessary. As a researcher, you can concentrate on the quality of the paper. You can concentrate on the quality of your thesis. So you can collect the data, or when you're developing the scale, you can, do a pilot study, get the validity and reliability tested, make that as a paper, publish it. It will definitely be published. There's no doubt about it. Any of the, at least if not in Q1, in Q2 or Q3, definitely you will get publication. So please note, every journal has got its own kind of, what do you say, I'm not telling the purpose of that journal. Now, once you decide on a particular journal, now let us say, for example, let us take human resource management. Okay, you will have Journal of Human Resource Management. Make sure that you first go to that, see what are all the criteria that you have to fulfill under that, and try to read at least 10 papers that have been published in that particular journal. So you will get an idea of what exactly they publish, and then start off. Now, once you start off, please remember, it's a very long process, 2 years, 3 years. So if somebody has started off with your research, make sure that you start with simultaneously with publication also. This is something that is very, very important for a researcher. Okay. Apart from Scimago, we also have what is called as ABDC rankings. Again, if you Google it, you can also go through this ABDC rankings. Again, they've ranked it as A plus, B, C. Rankings have been given. You can also look into that. Again, they are from the same publishers. You will have Wiley, Sage, okay, elsewhere. So those kind of publications you will get. Either you can go to this ABDC, or you can, if you go to Scimago, I think that's the best. You will get a list of Q1, Q2 and Q3. If you go to UGC CARE list, please go to the UGC website. All that you need to do is, once you go to the website, it will ask you to log in. If you want that UGC CARE list, the UGC CARE list, You just have to go and click on that list. Now, when you click on that list, suppose you already have a login and a password, you can directly go and see the list. Otherwise, you just have to log in, and it will just ask you your email and password. If you give, you will get the list. The list is the same as your Schemago, so you need not much worry about the list. Now, again, in that also the same details are given, not mistaken, the same details are given. All that you need to do is on the left hand side, they would have given you filters. As soon as you go, you give your email ID and password, you just have to go, on the left hand side, you get filters. Now, in that filters, you go to category, and just if you click on that search for category, immediately you will get a list. And in that list, there is accounting, then you have management, you have finance, you have separate. So you just click on that, you will get a list of all the journals that are available, almost the same as what we have already seen under Schemago. Okay, almost the same list. Now, also it will give you the citation index. All details will be given in that. So make sure that you first select what is that you need to do on. Then the second thing is whether what kind of paper they accept. This is something that is very important for you. What kind of paper they accept, and then you have to really read papers under that particular journal. So suppose you Academy of Management journal, Academy of Management review. If you kind of keep reading, you will get an idea of what kind of papers they actually will help you in publishing. And please note, at least it takes 1 year for you to write a paper. 6 months, it takes almost 6 months to review. Again, they will review and give it back to you. You get 3 months to again check and see whether whatever changes they have told you, incorporate it and send it back to them. And after that, if everything is done, it almost gets 1 year to get published. So it is around 3 years. So keep your target as 3 years, just almost the same time as you take for finishing your thesis. Now, a part of your research, as I told you, one objective you can take and publish it as your research work as a publication. Again, if it is an empirical study, an analytical study, or better if you are in the initial stages, my sincere advice to you is start off with a critical review paper on the particular concept that you have taken, or you can do a kind of empirical review or a systematic review. Or you can do this validation and development, scale development. So either of the two, it depends on you how much of effort that you put, and then you can try and do that. Okay, so this is regarding publication. Again, if you have any doubts regarding publication, please feel free to send an email to me. Again, if you want clarification, you can also put your question on the chat box. Of course, this will be switched off, so afterwards I will see the chat box, and I will send the reply to you on our WhatsApp group. So anything is fine with me. Again, as I told you, whatever questions you pose, again, it's a learning process for me also as well as you. Please remember, no person will tell that, okay, I'm completely, I know everything about research. No. And please, there are some people who get very I don't know anything in research. No, there's nothing bad to feel like that. At some point, you have to start off. There's nothing that I don't know. It's just that I will learn. Okay, that should be the attitude in you, and I think you can achieve wonders. So this is regarding publication. Again, I told you start off with Q2 and Q3, and I'm sure another 2 to 3 years, once you publish in Q2 and Q3, you will be able to try for Q1. Okay. Please keep reading a lot. That's the only thing I can say, because research language is entirely different. And keep tables. Always prepare tables and keep it ready. And any day it will be useful for you. Any day it is useful for you. Okay. So this is it regarding publication. Now the next thing what I would like to go to is measurement. Now, if you are preparing a questionnaire for your research, because you are doing a survey method, of course, there are many finance researchers which may use secondary data for the purpose of your research. Now, for those people, your analysis becomes entirely different. You will be using econometrics rather than psychometrics. So, people who are doing research in management, people who are doing research in a large part of human resource management, marketing management, banking, entrepreneurship, all these people can take up psychometric, but for them it is entirely different. You're using secondary data and the analysis is different. But whenever we take up measurement, what happens with social and psychological variables is that they are abstract. They need to be measured. Now, why is that they have to be measured? Is because we are preparing a hypothesis. So, we have to test our hypothesis. We must be able to convert the abstract ideas into concrete ones. Now, for that, measurement of these abstract ideas become very, very essential. Now, there are 4 levels of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Nominal is just your, a name is nominal. Now, in research, there are 2 important things what we as researchers must know. One is ordinal level of measurement, okay, and the second one is your interval. Now, what do you mean by ordinal? Ordinal is nothing but ranking. You are trying to give ranks. Now, that is ordinal, whereas interval is just like your class interval. So, whenever you are preparing an instrument, please remember, and if you are not ready to prepare an instrument, validate it, I opine that best is to take instruments. You take instruments that have already been validated. Nothing wrong in taking them. Nothing wrong. Only thing is you must be able to mention the source. Now, for my entire research, I have taken all instruments. Okay, nothing I have developed. So there's nothing wrong in taking those instruments that have already been validated. You just have to mention that these kind of instruments were used. That is the only difference. So something that has already been validated, again, I just need to validate it again here using Cronbach alpha, which next class I will be telling you how to test reliability and validity. But please note that, if you are in a stage where you are preparing an instrument, I feel that it's, a burden for the researcher, because plenty of instruments are available. Plenty of instruments are available. So if you take up a particular topic and if you just see whether that research instrument is there, definitely you will get that research instrument. Now, when you have to use, once we are preparing a questionnaire, once I'll just give you a sample. I will just show you a sample. Maybe you will get an idea. Now, if you are able to see this, I will send a copy of this also to you. Now, if you look into this questionnaire, again, this has not been validated. I'm not, it's just a rough what I had prepared, and so you can just see this. Now, the entire data, whatever is given here, the questionnaire, whatever is given here, no data has been collected as of now. You will see that there are a lot of class intervals that are given. Now, what is most important in this kind of research instrument? I have not validated it. Now, there are a lot of, again, initially, whatever data is required from the respondent, that is the entire profile, nothing has been given on the topic. So the first page will just be, what is the gender, what is the designation, what is the age, what is the total experience, the educational qualification, that is given. Okay. Now the next one, what is given is, if you could see, the size of the company, the industry represented. All this is what we call as the general data, which we are going to use only for descriptive statistics. Only for descriptive statistics, we are going to use this kind of data. Now, when we have to check our constructs, when we have to check our antecedent and the consequence, we also note what are the the dimensions, the items. So as you see below, there are a list of items that are given. So if I'm taking a particular item, now let us say work condition. Now work condition, if you're able to see there, work condition is the dimension. Now under the dimension, you have items. Now these items, there are two ways in which, because it's a questionnaire, most of you might say, it has to be in a question format. Of course, here it is in the statement format. And, the Likert scale has been given, where 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that is the strongly agree and strongly disagree is given here. So each of this compensation and rewards, all other variables have been compared or have been related to the final consequence, that is the employee well-being. So this is an instrument that is being prepared. Now, there are some people who directly use this kind of change. Now, this kind of instruments, directly they use it in their research. Based on face validity. So what do you say? You just say that there are experts, these experts have validated it based on face validity. I would rather say, no, you cannot use this kind of an instrument because it has not been validated. So what you can do is, for this kind of, questionnaire or this kind of a research instrument, you can do a scale development. You can do a scale development, a paper on scale development. So once you do the paper, if you take up the help of a statistician, do exploratory factor analysis, confirmatory factor analysis, and if you come out with the results, you can use that as a research instrument in your paper, in your thesis. Otherwise, please make sure that you are able to take up some research instrument. Now, let us say, for example, in my research role of HR managers, I did not prepare any questionnaire because the guru under that particular area, Dave Ulrich, had already prepared a role assessment survey. So based on that role assessment survey, I was just able to take up whatever was given in that and collected data under Indian circumstances. So this was the kind of research instrument. Now again, it was the consequence for the research was competitive advantage. Now that entirely I took it from Michael Porter's competitive advantage. So there is nothing that you have to say that you are doing something on your own, because what we are doing is not a conceptual research. So you can take from the expert in that particular area, take the research instrument. And there is also one more thing. Suppose, let us say, for example, you are studying organizational performance. As I told you, you need not search for variables on organizational performance. If you are doing a HR study, take only HR papers and do not required. Please go to a marketing paper. Please go to some other paper where they have used organizational performance as the consequence. And from that, what you can do, you can take the instrument, whatever that person has used, if they have validated it. Okay. Please note, because once you are preparing, this is fine. All that you need to do is understand ordinal and interval. Now, whatever you give under ordinal data, now ordinal data, you can use only non-parametric methods. So I will be teaching you under non-parametric methods. Ordinal data can be used for non-parametric methods, whereas for parametric methods, you have to use the interval. Okay, so as far as possible, in your research instrument, make sure that either you have ordinal level of measurement or you have interval level of measurement. These two are the most important. Not that you cannot do it for nominal also. Usually what we do is we convert nominal data in if it is given as nominal data, you convert it into ordinal data. And please do remember, I showed you the first page, that is the size of the company, the gender, the designation. All this, until and unless it is in the objectives of my research that I am using these variables. Okay, the demographic profile, if I am using that in the objective, only then you need to analyze it. Now let us say I'm doing a research on lifestyle management. Now my hypothesis, for example, is there is a relationship between the income level of the respondent and the lifestyle. Okay, I'm framing the hypothesis like that. Now at that particular time, this demographic profile, because my income level is under demographic profile, only then my demographic profile will be used. Otherwise, my demographic profile is only used for descriptive statistics. And please remember, descriptive statistics is only your frequency, your arithmetic mean, and your standard deviation. This is all descriptive statistics. This is not data analysis and interpretation relating to your study. This every individual must know. So I've seen a lot of papers. What they do is they give a list of statistics, descriptive statistics, and say that this is the conclusion that we are drawing. No, you must be able to do parametric tests, or you must be able to do correlation or regression studies. So something that is very important for you is, again I'm telling, getting to know in your questionnaire or in your data what is ordinal and what is interval. This is something what you need to know. Categorize it so that using that data you are able to conduct statistical tests based on objectives. Okay, so this is something that is very important. Now, what are the characteristics of a good measurement? Of course, there are others, but next class I will be concentrating mainly on these two. One is validity and the second one is reliability, because first you have to conduct a pilot study, make sure that the research instrument is used for the larger sample that you are going to study. So what is validity? So it should be able to measure what it actually intends to measure. I cannot use a ruler to measure the temperature. Like that, it's very easy for me to say something for a height, weight, and all that. But when it comes to abstract things like attitude, perception, personality, opinion, it's very difficult for me to say that this is the tool which is meant for this. So it must be validated. Every research instrument must be validated. And again, reliability. That means to say reliability is nothing but your consistency. Okay, consistent results you must be getting. You must not be getting, one time you get one result, another time you get something that is entirely opposite. No, that is not a good research instrument. So there are two important things which sound research instrument should have. One is the validity and the reliability criteria. So it must be served. Now, the next important thing is measurement scales. So, what are these measurement scales? The best example I can give you is your Likert scale, because most researchers in commerce, management, accounting, finance follow the Likert scale. Of course, we have judgmental scales. Again, they're used mainly in other social sciences like sociology and psychology. But as far as our research in commerce and management is concerned, we usually use a Likert scale, that is a 5-point scale, or it can be a 7-point scale. So it can be strongly agree, strongly disagree, high, low. So based on that, you are going to rate in that particular instrument. You also have rating scales. That means to say, this is called as a graphic rating scale. So in that scale, you just need to kind of tick where it usually comes. Now suppose this point is 1 and this point is 10. Now let us say I ask you something like, how was the coffee in your house today? So instead of telling good, bad, I don't drink and all that, better we have a rating scale from 1 to 10, and then you put. The only problem is the respondent, whatever, how they are reacting to this kind of a scale is very, very important, because some of them might resort to safe kind of valuation. So this kind of rating scale, it is mainly used in order to find out. Now let us say, how was my teaching today? So you take a rating scale, and then this is a graphic rating scale. You might just put somewhere between 5, 6, like that. So that is called as a rating scale. Now ranking scales is when you have to rank. Now let us say, for example, why did you buy your washing machine? So you might have various factors like quality, the color, the features, the appearance, the after sales service. You might have so many criteria. So when you list the criteria and each respondent each respondent kind of ranks it, then it is called as what do you call as a ranking system. Again, paired comparison is trying to take the simple ranking is just you take only one factor. In case of paired ranking, you take 2. Okay, that is quality and let us say after sales service, or the features and after sales service, like that. You are doing a paired comparison. That also is a ranking scale. The last type of scale is your cumulative scale. Now what happens in case of cumulative scale is, now let us say, for example, today I have this particular lecture, and out of 10, let us say I've been given 7. So when I give 7, what happens? It means that I'm also agreeing from 1 to 6. So 1 to 6 plus 1, that is 7. Suppose I'm giving 4. That means to say, I'm also accepting 1, 2, 3. So this kind of scaleogram was given by this Gutman scale, which was used to measure the level of morale of American soldiers. So it of course it measures only one dimension, but it takes also the reproducibility. Now, based on these scales, that's what I told you, what you are going to use in your research is very important. But as I told you, the Likert scale is by and large used. Apart from your scales, you also have what is called as projective techniques or motivation research techniques. Again, these are all your construction techniques, association techniques, and completion techniques. Of course, these are a lot used in psychology research and in case of qualitative research. So you can also include these kind of projective techniques. Of course, in certain marketing research, this kind of techniques are used. So if somebody is doing on marketing research, they can also think about construction techniques, association techniques, or completion techniques. Now with this, I will end for today. Maybe tomorrow again, I will continue with methods of primary data. Now I will do methods of collecting primary data and the tools simultaneously. Again, methods of collecting primary data is observation, interviews, and survey. Observation and interviews are mainly used for qualitative data, and survey is mainly used for quantitative data. Now for survey, the method is survey. The method of collecting data is survey, whereas the tool used for survey is the questionnaire. So there are many people who get confused with what is a method and what is a tool. Please remember, questionnaire is not a method of collecting primary data. Questionnaire is a tool for collecting data under survey method. For in case of observation, observation is the method, observation log sheet is the tool, interview is the method, interview schedule is the tool. So in the next class, I will be dealing in detail with two important things. One is your test of validity and reliability, again, which we will do it on Monday. Test of validity and reliability, that is in a pilot study, how do you go about it? What is that you need to know? The second important thing is methods and tools for primary data collection. These are the two things that I will be covering on Monday. So I hope today it was a good learning session for you. As far as possible, I'm trying to kind of accumulate, because the time is very short. So I'm only trying to give you very important things. I'm not going into the details of what it is. I'm just telling you why it has to be used in research. So as far as possible, this entire series, I'm trying to give answers to why questions rather than how to do and what to do. So thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity. If you have any questions, you can just put it in the chat box, so that I'm able to just see. Again, I told you, if it is specific questions on your research, please send me a mail. And if it is relating to general, that is, if it is relating to research, we can discuss it now. Riddhi. Chat box में video platform है. Give me questions. There are few questions, queries which they've sent. Publication details. Again, I told you while giving you the PPT, I will just type all this, whatever I have written it on the board, and I will send it to you. Don't worry. And some of them have asked for Q4 category. Of course, Q4 category is there, but currently I really wouldn't advise you to go in for a Q4 category. So somehow you can start off with Q3, no problem. And believe me, there are some journals in Q3 which restrict the number of words. You can start off like that. That means to say just 2,000 words, 3,000 words, giving just your views on a particular topic. There are journals like that under Q3. So initially you can look into those kind and start off with Q3. So initially start off with journals which give you less number of words. That's the best, because doing it with less number of words and doing again a critical review paper or a systematic review paper or an empirical review paper, doing your scale development, all these they add more value. So initially you can start off like that. Start off with Q3. So in Q3 again, as I told you, you have to go through the journal. See, I cannot tell you that this is a good journal or this. It relates to your particular area. So if it relates to your area, take up that. Make sure that what kind of papers they accept, and then you can work on reading a lot of papers of that particular journal. Then only you start with your work. Because if you read papers and if you feel that, okay, this is not my cup of tea, don't go for it. Don't attempt on that. This is something very important, because once you prepare for one particular journal, please remember other journals will not accept it, because the entire purpose of this journal is different from the other journal. Okay, even if you go through ABDC rankings also, you will not find D. You will find only up to C, A, B, and C. So again, as I told you, you can just go through the papers, the two papers what I have sent to you. It's a Q1 publication. You can just go through them. You get an idea of exactly how papers are accepted under publication. So if you just have to go to this Scimago rankings, just go to the subject area, you will get a list of in fact there are more than around Q1 itself, there are a lot of journals, Q2 again, and Q3. So and you it depends on you, but individually, as far as I'm concerned, I advise you to start off with Q2 or Q3, and then once you are familiar with publication, you come to a Q1 publication. Okay. And that's it. So thank you for today. Again, we meet on Monday at 2:30. Thank you.